Columbine happened, nothing's changed. Sandy Hook happened, nothing's changed. Parkland happened, nothing's changed.
Students in San Diego and across the country get ready to flex their political muscle in tomorrow's March for Our Lives rally.
What if they find errors or omissions?
The deadline for filing income taxes is fast approaching. How to avoid pitfalls and scams coming up. And a curated preview of all of this weekend's best happenings. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. They're going beyond civic lessons in history books. The students from Marjory Stoneman Douglas have spearheaded what could be one of the largest marches in history. They landed on the cover of Time magazine this week. Their message to adults: the school shooting generation has had enough.
Unfortunately, I lost 2 people in my class and 6 were hit. I was on the wrong side of the class, and no student should have to cover themselves with a deceased classmate to survive.
The Parkland students are in Washington, D.C. now, where organizers say they're expecting 1 million people to join tomorrow's March for Our Lives. More than 800 sister marches are planned from Japan to San Diego.
The initial thought for me was, well, this is a student-led movement, so that means we need more students. We don't need adults. We don't need our usual community activists leading this. We need the student youth. We need the student voice. And I kind of wanted to help amplify that.
Students around San Diego walked out in solidarity with Parkland students last week. Local march organizers say they hope to see 10,000 people at tomorrow's event.
With the election of Donald Trump, a lot more people have gone out and have really taken the importance of these issues to their heart and really started organizing and getting involved in the community. And so when you have that inspiration and that motivation and that drive, many more people will now start fighting. Many more people will recognize the importance of these issues, and we will continue to fight for gun reform and to end gun violence until the issue has been completely eradicated.
I served in the U.S. Army.
I served in the Navy,
Air Force, Marine Corps.
Veterans are also speaking out.
I know the power of this weapon firsthand.
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 Veterans for Gun Reform produced this PSA ahead of tomorrow's march.
And I support the ban on military-style assault rifles.
They are completely correct. These assault rifles should not be able to be sold, and they're designed for nothing but to kill. And to hear them come out and really talk and stand with us is very inspiring and moving.
You don't want people to think that it's the event, that's it. Nothing will come of this. Something will come of this, and that will be in this upcoming election. Expect to see an increased amount of youth voters going to the polls, showing up, holding our politicians accountable.
KPBS will cover the march in downtown San Diego tomorrow. You can follow along on our Facebook page. We also have details about the marches in Escondido and Encinitas at kpbs.org. San Diego Unified is fighting back against an uptick in fake threats against schools. Administrators say since last month's shooting in Florida, 49 false threats have been made against schools in the district. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
On Friday, SD Unified joined San Diego Police and the District Attorney's Office denouncing a surge of recent threats, mostly coming from kids.
Students who make false threats will be identified and they will be held accountable. This is no joking matter.
District Attorney Summer Stefan says her office has already charged 11 minors.
It doesn't matter if the threat is over social media, if it's scribbled on a school wall, or it is made person to person or in writing. All of these qualify as making a criminal threat.
San Diego Unified's police chief says officers have gone into overtime investigating the increase in reports.
We absolutely take the safety of our students very seriously, and it's a top priority for us. And we will vet every single threat or report of a threat that comes into our school district.
District officials say overtime costs have not exceeded $10,000, and so far, no threat has been credible. SD Unified says they're in the process of updating security at schools. That includes adding fencing, gates, and security cameras. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
President Trump is calling for a ban on bump stocks. Today, he tweeted that the Justice Department will issue a rule banning bump stocks with a mandated comment period. The shooter in last fall's rampage in Las Vegas had several bump stock devices among his arsenal. 58 people were killed in that attack. A new poll from the Public Policy Institute of California finds a vast majority of likely voters in the state favor stricter gun laws. KPBS health reporter Kenny Goldberg says only 24% of people surveyed think gun laws should stay the same.
The PPIC poll reveals support for tougher gun laws is strong even in more conservative parts of California like the Central Valley. But PPIC President Mark Baldessari says a most surprising finding is support among Republicans. He says a year ago, only a quarter of Republicans said gun laws should be stricter.
That number doubled, and now almost half of Republicans now joining overwhelming numbers of Democrats and independent voters in saying that there should be more strict gun controls.
California already has some of the strongest gun laws in the nation. For example, the state bans assault weapons and has a 10-day waiting period for new gun purchases. A measure recently introduced in the state assembly would raise the age to buy rifles and shotguns to 21. Kenny Goldberg, KPBS News.
San Diego Assemblyman Todd Gloria introduced legislation today that would make it harder for local law enforcement agencies to get military-grade equipment. If passed, the bill would require police to participate in public hearings before buying or acquiring military hardware and to get approval from the city council. Gloria said in a statement, state and law enforcement are a public safety service, not an occupying force. The bill is in response to a rollback from the Trump administration of an Obama-era executive order preventing police from gaining access to military equipment through the Department of Defense's excess property program. San Diego Unified used that program to acquire a mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicle in 2014. The district gave it back to the government after public outcry and ridicule from late-night comedians like Stephen Colbert.
San Diegans, get ready to take part in the March for Our Lives. Sticker shock as the county gets the bill for Hep A cleanup and America's role in Iraq 15 years after the war began. Join us for the KPBS Roundtable tonight at 8:30.
San Diego City Councilwoman Georgette Gomez wants to take back some authority from the Housing Commission when it comes to the amount of money it gives out for vouchers. The move is in response to a KPBS investigation that showed the commission is not using a program meant to desegregate communities where housing voucher recipients live. The point is to diversify neighborhoods and give voucher holders access to better schools, transit, jobs, and grocery stores. Councilwoman Gomez says she can understand that argument.
I'm frustrated that that discussion was taken away from us when we are accountable to ensure that all public money is serving what it's supposed to be.
Gomez will ask a council committee to vote next month on taking more control of the Housing Commission's decisions. With the income tax filing deadline fast approaching, an IRS-sponsored program is helping low-income families avoid pitfalls and get all their due. KPBS reporter Taryn Minto has the story.
The printer near Mark Schumacher's desk stays busy. It's often processing forms for low-income taxpayers who come to the offices of the nonprofit HomeStart.
If you can come up and to sign.
Schumacher helps HomeStart coordinate free tax preparation services as part of the government-sponsored program called VITA. That's Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. The national program trains people like Schumacher to prepare tax returns at no cost for filers who generally make less than $54,000 a year. VITA sites save lower earners the stress of doing returns on their own. And Schumacher says it can save them the cost of paying for it, too.
Some people tell me $150 to $300, and here we are doing it for free.
His colleague, Frankie Hernandez, works at a VITA site in San Diego City Heights neighborhood. Hernandez says the program helps qualifying clients get more out of their refund because they look for key credits that benefit low to moderate income filers. Like when he reviewed a client's return that was done by a paid preparer, he noticed a credit was overlooked.
It was actually for the school credit that they didn't even put it in there. So that actually helped them out, like get more from the refund.
That's the American Opportunity Tax Credit, which can be claimed by people paying for higher education. Schumacher says that credit makes a big difference for him, too.
We've got 2 kids in college right now, and boy, I love that.
Hernandez and Schumacher say even if you don't qualify for the free tax prep or you choose a paid preparer, there are steps you can take to ensure you receive quality service. First, Hernandez says to speak up.
Ask as many questions as you can because we're trying to get all the information too, and any missed questions or missed opportunities for them to even get their full refunds.
Schumacher says the professional should ask for proper documentation like your social security card. While it's not mandated of paid preparers, requesting proof can help prevent nefarious filers from making claims with stolen information.
What that should do is make it harder to file fraudulent claims.
He says he's seen multiple cases where social security numbers of a client's children were wrongly used on other claims.
And now the taxpayer is struggling with how do I get to claim my own children?
And Schumacher says make note of the obvious warning signs, like when a friend of his was asked by a paid preparer to provide a specific number for something, but he couldn't remember. And that's when the paid preparer improvised.
So the guy literally reaches over and grabs a stapler. I don't have a stapler, looks at the back for the model number and wrote that down for the number. So if that's the way your taxes are being done, that is really, really bad. Because in an audit, how do you defend yourself?
But it's not only taxpayers who may be concerned about properly filing. Take the case of Max, the anxious preparer, as played out in the IRS training video.
Hello? Max?
He phones a fellow preparer after learning the IRS is reviewing whether he accurately claimed a credit. He worries he made a mistake.
What if they find errors or omissions?
And after Max's worst fear of landing in jail flashes on the screen, his friend puts him at ease by reminding him of best practices, such as logging client answers to all questions, scrutinizing any return that seems questionable.
Better safe than penalized. Right. 4, we send people away if the answers they give us just don't make sense.
The video may be cheesy, but it points to the serious business of filing taxes.
So this is your entire return.
VITA site staff like Hernandez and Schumacher are available by appointment at sites across the county. But for those who choose to pay a professional, the IRS warns that anyone accepting compensation for doing your taxes should always sign the return and provide an ID number. If they refuse, that's a red flag. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
Temperatures are getting back to normal, but a few clouds are expected to return tonight with the possibility of light showers into tomorrow. Justin Povic has the weekend's full forecast.
Relatively quiet weather conditions going forth through time. There could be a few light showers here Saturday night into early Sunday morning. Very light and few and far between. Temperatures now cooler than they have been, but we're back down close to normal, if not a degree or two below. But we will start to see, or I should say feel, some warmer temperatures for next week. So a break in the action here throughout the state as we go through the afternoon, the evening hours, I should say, into the overnight. Notice further off to the north, we're going to be talking about precipitation sliding in as a front moves in our direction. Last 6 or so hours, well, again, earlier on there were a few showers locally, nothing substantial. And out of the storm system as a whole, we saw amounts ranging from 1/4 to 1/2 inch toward Oceanside. Higher amounts points north into Orange County, especially in and around metro Los Angeles. Very light amounts of trace to under 1/10 of an inch here further off to the south. And again, for tonight, some clouds in place, but not tracking any additional precipitation as lows fall off into the mid-50s. A little cooler toward Oceanside, upper 40s. Again, Mount Laguna, mid-30s. Borrego Springs, mid-50s. And Hermosa are dropping down to 44 as we go into the late night hours. We'll be climbing back here as we venture into Saturday. But notice the next storm system wasting no time. Cold front slides south and east, dropping snow levels over the Sierra Nevada, especially north of Interstate 80. We're just going to see some clouds filtering in, and temperatures will respond and climb back into the 60s for most, and pretty close to normal, like I said. Poway 63, San Diego 64, Oceanside. We will match that mark. Borrego Springs warmer into the mid-70s. All right, let's talk about the extended forecast. Like I said, a little bit of energy here Saturday night into Sunday could spark a shower. Nothing significant here. A trace, perhaps 1/100 of an inch or two. And then cue the warm-up Tuesday into Wednesday, 70-ish. And inland, we could go mid-70s by Wednesday. Morning shower again on Sunday. Clouds break over the mountainous terrain. We go from the 30s to the 50s from Monday into Wednesday. Desert locations into the 80s by mid-next week. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Povick. Back to you, Ebony.
This weekend brings a mix of sports, arts, with an ice skating themed Cirque du Soleil and a show about cheerleading. Here with more is KPBS Arts Calendar editor Nina Guerin.
Cirque du Soleil is back in San Diego, only this time you'll see those trademark acrobatics on ice. Cristal blends circus artistry with figure skating, and what's unique is that the ice rink is also used for projections to create what looks like an underwater world. It features 20 skaters who learned how to do jumps and 20 acrobats who learned how to do tricks on ice. Together, they tell the story of a girl who falls through the ice into a world of imagination, self-discovery, and independence. We go from ice skating to cheerleading with a production of Bring It On the Musical, a show with music by Lin-Manuel Miranda. If you remember, the original movie from 2000 was set in San Diego and told the story of rival cheerleading squads. The musical is actually about a girl who has to change schools, but it features the same dynamic cheer routines you'd expect from Bring It On, plus a whole bunch of catchy songs. This is the first pre-professional show put on by San Diego Musical Theater, which means the show is performed by a cast of talented teens. Finally, one of the hardest working comedians comes to San Diego. John Mulaney is here for his latest stand-up show, Kid Gorgeous.
I grew up Catholic. I don't go to church anymore, but I went on Christmas Eve with my parents, because you know how you lie to your parents, so...
John Mulaney may not be a household name, but he was a writer for Saturday Night Live and co-created the character Stefan. He also has had some acclaimed Netflix stand-up specials, performs as a 70-year-old with his friend Nick Kroll, voices an animated show, and is generally beloved by comedy fans everywhere. For KPBS Arts, I'm Nina Guerin.
Stay up to date on the San Diego arts scene with the KPBS Arts Calendar and our arts newsletter. Sign up at kpbs.org/newsletter. For the 6th year, La Jolla Playhouse presents its DNA New Works project. Part of its new play development initiative, selected playwrights receive no-frills readers' theater presentation of works in progress. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando speaks with Ramiz Monsaf about his play, 3 Farids.
Your play is part of the new DNA project this year. Tell people what DNA projects are like for a writer.
We get space and time to work on our piece and to, throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks, which is really helpful with comedy. For me specifically, it's a chance to keep making sure proportions are correct and make sure the bits and jokes work and making sure I'm funny and that everything is landing the way it's supposed to and that I'm telling the story I want to tell. It's a chance to refine, make your work better.
And your play is 3 Farids, and tell us what that's about.
The elevator pitch is it's a play about 3 guys named Farid auditioning for the role of Farid. It sort of starts there and then devolves into greater and greater absurdity, and it's something that I wrote just to kind of deal with the strangeness of being in Hollywood and being an actor and being brown and sort of all the challenges that brings up. I don't know, I guess my way to deal with problems in my life is to laugh at them. That's always been my sort of defense mechanism, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
The particular role they're trying out for is a terrorist, correct?
Yeah.
So what kind of things did you want to explore through comedy in these actors trying to audition for this role?
I mean, I started writing it in an audition room because I was going to all these auditions, not all of them for terrorists, but a lot of them for terrorists, and going in and just bombing, just like being terrible. And I think it was because I was taking it so seriously and like, you know, putting everything up on this pedestal. And then just one day I just started laughing at it all and like seeing how ridiculous it all is and I started writing it on my phone while I was waiting to go into an audition, and everyone in the room must have thought I was a crazy person because I was sitting there just like laughing my ass off, cracking jokes about all the people around me and like what are we all doing here? We could all be cousins, you know, and I just kept going, and my rule was just like, as long as it keeps making me laugh, I got to keep writing it to the end. And it did. It just kept making me chuckle and like, and it became my way to sort of deal with the weird machine of Hollywood. And it's not something, I'm not trying to be like incendiary. I'm just trying to like hold the mirror up to the thing and say like, you guys, this is a little silly. It's okay for us to like laugh at how silly this is, at what we're doing. And it's a way to talk about it, but also like I'm not trying to like put anyone's feet to the fire. I've dealt with a lot of different things in my life like anyone else has, and I've gone through times of you know, leaning on more self-destructive ways to handle problems in my life, and eventually came around to realizing that like what really is the most effective and the most powerful is humor.
And do you think humor is a good tool for getting other people to kind of see your point of view as opposed to something that might be more serious?
Yeah. I mean, I think they're both valid, but I think comedy is super effective because it just makes the power of the thing that we're doing that much greater, because theater is powerful in and of itself. Performance is powerful in and of itself because you get a group of people together in a room and they're all experiencing the same thing. And they could have different political views or different financial backgrounds or different racial backgrounds, whatever you want to call it. But this is all of a sudden one thing that they all have in common. And they can all kind of like, if they can all sit in a room and experience something together, it'll at least hopefully be a little bit easier for them to look at each other as equals, whereas maybe before they didn't.
All right, well, I want to thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming to my library, by the way. I've read all of these books. I liked most of them, except this one. It's terrible. Terrible book.
3 for Reads will be performed tonight at 7:30 at the La Jolla Playhouse.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, after threatening a veto, President Trump signs a massive spending bill that funds the military at historic levels. Coming up at 7, right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Many bars across the U.S. offer activities to go along with drinking, like darts and pool. But AP reporter Robert Bumstead says a new pub game is growing quickly in popularity.
Talking of timber, look at this. From lumberjack rough to hipster chic, the sport of axe throwing is becoming popular in bars across the country.
People are like, oh my God, sharp objects in beer. What a great idea that is. But truthfully, after you have a couple of drinks, you start to actually throw a little bit better.
Kick-axe throwing, Brooklyn's up-and-coming Gowanus neighborhood, is the first such venue to open in New York City.
You're hanging out with, like, you know, the hip youth of Brooklyn, throwing sharp objects at a board.
Expert Alexander Stein,
boom,
teaches beginners the proper technique.
Cross your thumbs like such. This is going to keep the axe so it doesn't go all wobbly when it leaves your grip. Next, you're going to place it right out in front of you, pointing that at what you want to hit. Release about forehead height after bringing it all the way back. No, okay.
On This Thursday night, Kick-Ax was packed with groups of friends and companies out for a team-building exercise.
This was actually a very safe take on a classic game, throwing sharp things at stationary walls.
Kick-Ax is just one of dozens of similar venues that have popped up in recent years. It's a casual night out for some, but for others, this is serious competition.
Axe throwing is very cathartic.
It's definitely a good way to release some energy after a long day at work.
It's championship night at Bad Axe Throwing in Chicago for members of the World Axe Throwing League.
10 throws around, winner take all.
This Canada-based chain of venues started the World Axe Throwing League a year ago, and it already has 2,500 members.
We have people who are 18 years old in the league. We have people up in their 70s in the league. All sorts of different professions.
In December, they even held the first World Championship tournament, played virtually and broadcast on Facebook. The grand prize, $3,500 and bragging rights as the first world champion. Enthusiasts say the ultimate goal is to make axe throwing an Olympic sport.
It's very competitive, takes skill.
This should absolutely be an Olympic sport. If curling is, then this should be too.
Robert Bumstead, Associated Press.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. And we leave you tonight. Have a great night.